Dr. Skowronski, who works in general hospital medicine and perhaps I think has a slightly different view. Doctor, good afternoon to you.
Hello, Roberto. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Welcome to the programme. What's your take? We can't dictate to people the size of family they have, but should people take it into consideration given the endeavours we're all, I think, trying to make to combat climate change?
I think it's a good question, and you can see why people end up with the conclusion that your guest from earlier came on. But I think they need to cheer up a little bit about people having kids, because having kids is without a doubt one of the best things people can do in their life, and one of the things that gives people, is sort of universally agreed, gives people the most pleasure and meaning in their life. And seeing children as some sort of environmental catastrophe it's a very sad way of looking at things. But I also don't think it's really an accurate way of looking at things. If you look at the data, look at what are the biggest producers of climate change, and the biggest producer of climate change is consumption. And so that family from Mali is never going to produce throughout their life anything like perhaps the chap you had on earlier from Population Matters in terms of carbon in their lives. So it's all about behaviour. It's not about numbers of people or numbers of children.
But surely, Doctor, surely the numbers matter. Children are a blessing. They are the most wonderful thing anybody could have if they're lucky to do so, of course. The problem is they're also very expensive. Sure.
They're expensive, but I think one of the things I've noticed since becoming a parent is that I think apart from the COVID pandemic, the single thing that's had the most impact on my carbon footprint has been having a kid, because I don't go anywhere. I used to go, all over the world, all sorts of different places. I don't go anywhere now because, one, I can't afford it, and two, I don't need to. I don't need to try and find meaning in other places. I find meaning here at home with my kids.
Do you want me asking how old your children are? You don't have to answer if you don't want to, of course.
I've got a baby and another one in heaven.
Oh, right, okay. But it's a worry for all parents, of course. The only reason I raised the argument this afternoon is most of us are trying to combat climate change in terms of reducing our carbon emissions, switching from petrol or diesel to a green alternative, walking, cycling more, being more cautious and careful about what we consume. Surely a bigger family is just more pressure on a system that's already strained.
Well, not necessarily for the reasons I just outlined there. We shouldn't be seeing human beings as the problem, because a human being, depending on where they are in the world or how they behave, produces vastly different amounts of carbon footprint. It's all about behaviour, and behaviour is the thing that we should be changing.
I get that, but if you've got 3 children or 2 children, surely that is easier on the world's resources than if you have 8, 9 or 10.
Not necessarily. What if you're flying your 3 children out to Orlando or to Los Angeles or things every year? Then you're going to have a much bigger impact than the family who goes camping down the road once a year, who has 7 kids.
Of course, but if you have 6,
but the thing is that it's behaviour that's the fundamental variable. It's not about the numbers.
But if you have 6 children, won't those 6 children need to have a job? Won't those 6 children need to live in a house somewhere? That's what I mean. The numbers, we're just adding to the population.
Sure. And a lot of what we're doing and the steps that we're taking in terms of changing how we run our economies, changing how we generate energy, are going to mean that year on year, from here on out, those children are going to be producing less and less carbon, because we're finally conscious of the impact that it's been having on the planet. So I'm looking at the future, looking at the projections in this country and others for how we're going to be at carbon zero in 2050. At that point, why have fewer people using clean generated electricity? What's the issue there?
Doctor, pleasure talking to you this afternoon. Wish you well.